Cuba. After just 8 days, we learn, well, it's complicated. Pampered Pets welcomes Rosie and Chloe. Monday, we take a chartered flight from Miami to Cuba. Our trip to Cuba is licensed and permitted by the U.S. government as a people-to-people exchange. Tourism is not yet allowed. As we enter Cuba, we go through security to ensure no firearms are brought into the country. The bus ride to Cienfuegos reveals impoverished villages in nearly third-world conditions, but also green, fertile countryside. Our Cuban guide, Danny, joins us along the way. At this point, Danny is supposed to take over completely, and our American tour guide, Louis, is not allowed to say anything. Danny points out a school playground. School is free and mandatory and enforced. Parents can be incarcerated, and you cannot apply for a job without a high school education. We spot the first of the very many antique American cars in Cuba. We arrive at our hotel in Cienfuegos, and American tour director Louis prefaces what he has to say with technical detail. It soon becomes quite the joke. Not knowing what to expect, we packed soap. The Hotel La Union, from its unassuming exterior, opens to a real gem. With everything owned by the government, all profits go to the government for distribution back to the people. Before dinner that night, we go to the rooftop bar and enjoy the first of many mojitos. The group walks to an unassuming, unair-conditioned building for our pre-dinner entertainment, the Cienfuegos Choir. What a surprise performance! We could have been at Spivey. A delightful evening stroll to our restaurant. Che is everywhere. Locals enjoy a game of chess along the tree-lined esplanade. Dinner at a paladar. These are privately owned restaurants that the government has recently allowed. The owners can keep their profits, and a tax is assessed on this income. Mom and Dad are the chefs. Sons, fiancés, cousins are the staff and band. Tuesday, we hurry off to a local cigar factory. This is the only area where we could not bring purses or cameras, so you will have to imagine. The factory is old, unair-conditioned, dark, radio blaring from overhead speakers. 153 women and 30 men. Fascinating to watch the process. The ladies are all thrilled when Louis gives them a little Hershey's kiss. Next stop is the Cienfuegos Botanical Garden. Originally developed in concert with Harvard University, it went through a complicated history and now is primarily an arboretum with specimens from all over the world. See the woman's figure in this tree trunk? Returning to the bus, we are greeted by this little fellow. Off to Trinidad, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Scenery opens up and we drive along the coast. This area has a huge crab migration from the hills, where the trees are full of them, across the road to the sea. Results in much roadkill, smelly highways, and the shells will even puncture tires. We stop along the way at a roadside stand for some interesting-looking fruit and a hat for everyone. The government gives each individual 20 to 25 kooks a month, but it takes about 500 kooks to live on. Jobs, these little businesses, and money from outside the country help provide a living. Lunch in Trinidad. Who would know there is a charming restaurant behind this door? We are a group of 19, 5 men and 14 women, intelligent, eager to learn, and fun-loving. Trinidad, like the rest of Cuba, is organized into neighborhood committees, CDRs, Committees for the Defense of the Revolution. Created by Fidel in 1960, these committees are designed to promote social welfare and report on activity. Each CDR official has a duty to monitor the activities of all persons on their blocks. Opponents of the system cite loss of individual freedom and human rights, pervasive mistrust. Proponents say the local committees play a key role in support of community projects, dissemination of medical and social information, and personal safety. It's complicated. Cubans use every mode of transportation. On our drive back to Cienfuegos, we see huge solar panels and gorgeous beaches. Before dinner, we stop at the Palacio de Valle. Built in the early 1900s by a wealthy sugar baron, it is now a restaurant and museum. Architecture is Spanish Moorish with influences of Gothic, Romanesque, and Baroque. With a storm brewing, another delightful evening stroll to our restaurant on the Bay of Cienfuegos. Our restaurant, and there is always a car. After another bountiful breakfast, our Wednesday starts with a walking tour of Cienfuegos. An occasional stray dog follows us along, for companionship and a little shade, I think. We are scheduled to tour the luxurious Thomas Terry Theater, but unfortunately it is being fumigated, for Zika, we assume. Back to the bus for our drive to Santa Clara. Che's portrait can be seen everywhere, and surprisingly, there are few of the Castros. We stop at the Che Guevara Memorial and Mausoleum along the way, and although Danny, our guide, says we will revisit his story later, the topic does not come up again. Political, human rights issues such as Bay of Pigs or the embargo are pretty much not discussed. Our first stop in Santa Clara is a retirement community. Women retire at the age of 60 and men at 65. Since so many families care for the elderly in their homes, the center also acts as a daycare facility. We enjoy a Dance of the Fans presentation, a game of Quimbumbia, and a rousing dance lesson. As the days pass, we get to know our support staff: Rolando, the bus driver; Louis, the American tour director; and Danny, our Cuban tour director. Danny is 31, speaks 5 languages, recently divorced, 2 children by 2 fathers, head of household for her children, mother, and sister. Next stop is a school of art and dance, where the students sing for us. Education is mandatory and free. After your education is completed, everyone provides 3 years of government service, with the men serving in the military 1 of those years. Your education and talents are considered, but you are sent to where the country needs you most. Technical note: the red noses are gifts sent back from a previous traveler. In the after-performance exchange, one young man asks if any of us are actors. American film and TV are huge in Cuba. And we are off to the beaches. In the 90s, this area was wild. The government recognized it as a moneymaker and requested volunteers to build the 30-mile causeway. Since then, it has become a major all-inclusive resort area with its own air runway, primarily for Canadians. Only tourists and employees can come to the islands. The government partners with corporations to build the resorts, with a 49-51 split. And this is our all-inclusive, Hotel Playa Cayo Santa Maria. We are greeted with a glass of champagne. Thursday morning, we drive to a sugar factory museum, and the day starts with daiquiris from cane juice and a lime ground up with it. Cuba was once the world's largest sugar exporter, with the U.S. receiving 33% of its sugarcane before the 60s, then nearly 100% going to the Soviet Union. Production is on the rise again, with new markets in China. You may recognize this harried woman who was making the daiquiris, getting a big hug from Louis. Now a delightful steam train ride to Remedios, with greetings from the locals all along the way. For our tour of Remedios, we are met at the train station by a fleet of bicy taxis, who just happened to be managed by Danny's ex. I thought the American and Canadian flags were excellent marketing. The city is spotlessly kept, and residents seem very proud. Our tour ends at the Cathedral of San Juan Bautista, whose charter it is to help the weakest of society. The painting on the mahogany ceiling appears as a tulip from one direction and could be Christ from the other, an important Arabic distinction. This statue of Mary is an unusual Catholic image. Mary is portrayed as a common housewife. It is made of wood with glass eyes looking upward to the future, not down in humble prayer, and she is shown as pregnant. As we exit the church, we are greeted by an orchestra in the town square, playing Gershwin tunes. A buddy seat for the birds he is carrying. Then to the workshop and museum for the Parandas Festival. Held Christmas Eve, it is a traditional street party with dancing floats competition. While the discussion may look a little dry, here is a picture of the event in progress. After quite a long morning, we have lunch at a local farm. Good conversation, a band as always, and a little sharing with the chickens and cats. This type of fence was all over, and another example of use what you have. Small tree limbs were buried in the ground, and then some would take root and sprout. We return to the resort and are granted some much-needed free time. We head to the beach, followed by a beer in the beer garden. After an on-your-own, not-so-special buffet last night, we were treated to a wonderful dinner and show at one of the specialty restaurants. Friday morning, after everyone dumps the contents of their minibars into the bus cooler, we start our long bus ride to Havana. Let me speak to what is known as the special period. In the early 90s, with the dissolution of the Soviet Union, Cuba lost its main source of exported sugar and its only source for imports, everything, food, medicine, oil. The country had no products. The Cuban economy collapsed. Famine engulfed the country with people forced to eat anything they could find, zoo animals, stray cats and dogs. Malnutrition led to epidemics. This terrible period in very recent history forced the transformation of Cuba's agriculture and industry. Remnants from the Cold War period. Iron equipment from old sugar mills still line the sides of the highway. If necessary, they were to be placed on the highway to deter U.S. planes from landing there. One of the group, familiar with aircraft, says this would not have worked, as American planes could land in just 500 meters. Ah, Danny says, but these were placed every 100 meters. Then a big smile. Our incredible tour director, Luis Guzman, is of Puerto Rican descent, has been to Cuba 19 times in the past 2 years, loves the Cubans, and everywhere we go, they love him. Today's lunch on a farm was preceded by a game of guinea pig roulette, with a prize a bottle of rum. Lunch and dinner are always a festive affair, with a band and included drinks. Havana, and American antique cars are everywhere. Some of the streets are blocked for the filming of Fast and Furious. We are exhausted after a long day in the bus, but we stop at the University of Havana, home to 30,000 students. The university has a stormy political past, but that, of course, is not discussed. The central quadrangle is lovely and quiet. Included in the square is a tank Che's rebels captured. This building has an owl atop with huge blue eyes, signifying that until 1959, the Revolution, only whites were allowed in the university. With just 1 hour to check in and unpack, we still manage a quick shower and are good to go for the evening. We travel to the home of a local artist with international acclaim, Lorenzo Lopez Schenning, and are greeted at the door with a warm handshake and a heartfelt welcome. He discusses this major work, Tree of Life. Take a closer look at the petals made with recycled materials. Lorenzo is passionate about his family and work and life and the art world in Cuba. We are invited to look around his home and gallery, which is beautiful, and always the car. This area of the city is older, established trees, stately homes, yet most of the properties need comprehensive restoration and care. There are still haves and have-nots, but not as dramatic as other countries. Saturday morning, we get a chance to explore our hotel in Havana for the next 3 nights, the Malia Cohiba. The views from our room, but again, no time to use the pool. How about mimosas and a string quartet with breakfast? Our morning tour is a walking tour through Old Havana with a local architect. Welcome to Cuba. In Cuba, a beautiful man or woman is called a mango, and this architect is Danny's real mango. He lives with his mother and grandmother and has 2 brothers in the U.S. One established residency in Spain, then moved to the U.S. The other went to Mexico City, then walked across the border. By law, any Cuban citizen that enters the U.S. is automatically declared a refugee. Concern is that with the easing of relations, this law will be rescinded, hence the current increase in asylum seekers. Designed for 20,000 people, Old Havana now has 70,000 residents. In the 1980s, the government gave this area almost total control under a master plan office. They run all businesses and also use the taxes that are collected. 40% of the sales go to restoration and 20% directly to the community. But, the architect cautions, when you open a window, you feel the breeze, but flies will come. Said to be the home of the first mojito, this little bar and restaurant is also famous for its numerous artist regulars: Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Nat King Cole, Salvador Allende, Margot Hemingway. Restoration is very complicated. At the time of the Revolution, the government allowed only 1 home or apartment per family. As families expanded, they still only had 1 apartment. The government owned the land, the people owned the apartment, and to this day, no one owns the building. This building is scheduled for restoration. 22 families live here now, and it must be reduced to 12 families, and the families must decide who will stay and who will leave. They were told, "We will restore the building. We will build new housing for the families that leave. We will provide temporary housing so your children can attend school here." This was 7 years ago, and still waiting for the families to decide. Free time. Part of the group finds a fortune teller hot off the set of Fast and Furious, and we discover a print and etching studio. Michelle Obama bought one of the larger black and white etchings. We bought this little guy, the national bird, Tokororo. Traffic barriers made from old cannons. The hotel where Hemingway lived in the 30s. Our tour of Old Havana ends at the Plaza de Armas. Spain kept excellent records, so there is a good history of this area. The streets are wood from the ironwood tree, built by a wealthy man wishing to please his wife, who took naps in the afternoon. One Saturday a month, there is a special gathering in this square to present new books that have been written. Socialism or death? Danny said that where the Castros reside is a secret,